Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the complex, sometimes completely confusing, but absolutely fascinating world of the green marketing ecosystem. We're going to be synthesizing a really unique blend of recent data from global OECD reports and strict UK consumer regulations, all the way to some cutting-edge academic studies on consumer psychology. We'll connect the dots to uncover exactly how sustainability signals travel from a corporate boardroom right into our brains. So, if you've ever stood in a grocery aisle staring at a little green leaf logo on a product and wondered, does this actually mean anything? Well, you are in the exact right place.
So let's dive right into this big question. Because, as we're going to see today, the difference between a genuine environmental effort and just a clever marketing trick, it really all comes down to the signals we receive. In a marketplace that is totally flooded with eco-friendly claims, our brains are constantly trying to decode what's real and what's just noise. How exactly does a company prove its green credentials, and more importantly, how do we as consumers process that proof?
To unpack all of this, we'll follow a quick roadmap. First, the green marketing boom. Second, tracking real business emissions. Third, the rise of greenwashing. Fourth, policing environmental claims. And finally, consumer trust and signals.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the green marketing boom.
Okay, the key idea here is rooted in something called signaling theory. A comprehensive 2024 review by researcher Shahid really digs into how this works in international marketing. Think about it. When you buy a product, its actual environmental impact is literally invisible to you. You can't just see a company's carbon footprint or their supply chain. So the company, acting as the sender, has to create a signal to project those hidden qualities to you, the receiver. They're basically trying to bridge that information gap to build trust with you.
And we can see exactly how these signals play out. A 2022 study by Vula and colleagues maps out marketing strategies against the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It's kind of wild when you look at the divide. Firm-level strategies focus heavily on big, internal structural goals like industry and innovation. But when they flip the script and signal to us, the everyday consumers, the marketing zeroes in almost exclusively on Goal 12, responsible consumption. They are carefully tailoring the signal to whatever they think is going to trigger our specific buying behavior. Moving right along to Section 2, tracking real business emissions.
So, what happens when we look past the slick marketing? According to the OECD's 2025 guidelines on environmental reporting, verifying these green signals means businesses have to track some incredibly boring but totally vital, hard inputs. We aren't talking about creative branding here. We're talking about tracking Scope 1 emissions, which is direct pollution like company vehicles, using literal physical fuel purchase receipts and meter readings. And for Scope 2 emissions, the indirect energy they buy, that means tracking utility bills and energy certificates. It's totally unglamorous, sure, but this is the hard reality required to make a truly substantiated green claim.
And the good news. When you look at a massive 2024 OECD study, the data proves that genuine green signals do often match reality. Across multiple sectors like manufacturing and services, the firms that actually engage in environmental practices show drastically lower per-employee pollution levels compared to the firms that don't engage. Bottom line, when companies put in the actual work, the emissions data proves it. Real greening is out there.
Which brings us to the dark side of the ecosystem in Section 3, the rise of greenwashing. Unsurprisingly, the academic study of deceptive signaling, what we all famously know as greenwashing, has absolutely exploded. Researcher Montgomery mapped out a massive, dense citation network in a 2023 study, and it really shows how academics are just scrambling to untangle the sheer mountain of misleading environmental claims flooding the global market right now.
And diving deeper into Montgomery's research reveals a pretty terrifying evolution. It's not just about slapping a fake leaf on a bottle of soap anymore. We started at Greenwashing 1.0, which was just misleading everyday shoppers with marketing. Then it morphed into Greenwashing 2.0, where firms started tricking ESG investors and mutual funds with sweeping, vague PR claims. And now, we are squarely in the era of Greenwashing 3.0. This is where organizations actively lobby politicians behind closed doors to delay climate action, all while publicly signaling to the world that they support environmental policies. The signal has literally become a smokescreen.
So, how do we fight back? Let's get into Section 4, policing environmental claims.
With so many false signals polluting the market, regulators are finally stepping in. In the UK, for example, the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, released some seriously strict guidance.
They realized that while consumer law doesn't stop companies from making environmental claims, it absolutely has to aggressively protect people from unfair, misleading practices. Basically, they want to level the playing field for the honest companies that are actually doing the hard work we just saw in that OECD data.
And the whole point of this CMA guidance really boils down to 6 core principles. The main takeaway? A signal has to look at the entire picture. Principle 5 is absolutely crucial here. You cannot make a claim based on one tiny, eco-friendly part of your supply chain while hiding massive pollution somewhere else. You have to consider the full life cycle of the product. And, as Principle 6 hammers home, every single claim must be substantiated, with hard evidence, like those OECD fuel receipts we talked about earlier.
Finally, let's talk about the receiver of all these signals. Section 5, Consumer Trust and Signals. So how do we react when we actually see an eco label? Well, a really fascinating 2014 study by Atkinson looked at this exact dynamic. They found that consumers report significantly greater trust in eco labels that are sourced and verified by the government compared to labels created internally by the corporations themselves. And honestly, with all the rampant greenwashing we just went over, that totally makes sense, right? Our brains have developed this natural skepticism. We inherently trust an objective third-party regulator way more than a corporate marketing department. Building on that psychology, Raman's 2023 research gives us a really clear roadmap of how green purchasing actually happens, using what's called the Stimulus-Organism-Response Framework. It's basically a 3-step dance. Step 1 is the stimulus. That's the green advertising and the brand image hitting your eyeballs. Step 2 is the organism. That's your internal cognitive evaluation where you ask yourself, wait, do I actually trust this brand? And only if that trust is secured do we hit Step 3, the response, actually setting the intention to pull out your wallet and buy the product. But here's the catch. This cognitive process is incredibly fragile, especially nowadays. Take the hyper-fast world of quick commerce, like those 10-minute grocery delivery apps. In a 2025 model by Chube, we see that a sender signal only actually triggers a purchase if it successfully navigates 3 specific pathways: credibility, visibility, and complexity. If a company's eco-actions aren't highly visible, totally credible, and super simple to understand, the cognitive load is just too high for the shopper. The signal drops, the trust breaks, and no one buys anything. So, we've journeyed all the way from high-level international marketing theories down to the hard reality of carbon receipts, pushed through the legal battles of greenwashing, and ended right inside our own split-second cognitive biases. Armed with all this knowledge about the whole ecosystem, I'll leave you with this to ponder. When you encounter your very next green signal, your next eco-friendly label, will you be reacting to a true, substantiated reflection of a clean supply chain, or just a brilliantly designed marketing signal? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.